The morning, Emma Zaleski burned her toast for the third time that week. She decided the universe was trying to tell her something about her ancient toaster, not that her entire life was about to flip upside down. She stood in her small kitchen, waving a dish towel at the smoke detector while cursing under her breath, completely unaware that downstairs in the lobby, someone was signing the lease for the apartment next door. Emma had lived in the Ashford building for 6 years. She knew every creaky floorboard, every temperamental radiator, every neighbor's schedule down to the minute. Mrs. Chen on the 3rd floor always took her morning walk at 7. David across the hall left for his accounting job at exactly 8:15. The building had a rhythm, a predictable comfort that Emma had come to rely on after so many years of uncertainty in her life. At 27, she had finally found her footing. Her graphic design business was growing steadily, enough that she could afford her rent without panic attacks, even if luxuries were still few and far between. The apartment might be small, but it was hers. The neighborhood might be transitioning from shabby to trendy, but she had been here first, had watched the coffee shops multiply and the rent prices climb with a mixture of pride and anxiety. She was scraping blackened bread into the trash when she heard it. The unmistakable sound of moving. Not just the shuffle of boxes being carried, but the organized chaos of professional movers, their voices echoing in the hallway, the heavy tread of multiple people carrying furniture. Emma peeked through her peephole. 3 burly men in gray uniforms were maneuvering a sleek leather couch through the doorway of 4B, the apartment that had sat empty for 2 months since old Mr. Peterson moved to Florida. Behind them, she could see more boxes stacked in the hallway, all labeled in neat black marker. The whole day, the sounds continued. Emma tried to work on a logo design for a new restaurant client, but her concentration kept breaking. It was not just curiosity, though she would admit to plenty of that. The building had a way of absorbing new people, and she wondered what kind of person could afford this place now. The landlord had mentioned something about renovating 4B, which probably meant the rent had doubled. By evening, the sounds had stopped. Emma was heating up leftover pasta when she heard a knock on her door. She was not expecting anyone. Through the peephole, she saw a man standing in the hallway, and her breath caught slightly. He was tall, probably just over 6 feet, with dark hair that looked professionally styled but slightly mussed, as if he had been running his hands through it. He wore a simple gray shirt and jeans, but even through the distorted peephole view, Emma could tell they were expensive. There was something about the way he carried himself, confident but not arrogant, tired but alert. She opened the door with the chain still attached. "Yes, hi, sorry to bother you." His voice was deeper than she expected, warm. "I just moved in next door. I wanted to introduce myself." "I'm Harrison Garrett." Emma felt suddenly aware of her paint-stained sweatpants and the messy bun piled on top of her head. Emma Zaleski." "Nice to meet you, Emma." He smiled, and she noticed he had a small dimple in his left cheek. "I also wanted to apologize in advance. I tend to keep odd hours because of work. I will try to keep the noise down, but if I ever bother you, please just knock on the wall or something." "What do you do?" The question came out before she could stop it. "I run a company. Manufacturing mostly, sporting goods and outdoor equipment." He said it casually, like someone might say they worked in sales or managed a restaurant. "Oh, well, I work from home, so I am usually here, but I am not too sensitive about noise." Emma felt the door chain between them like a physical barrier, but she was not quite ready to remove it. Years of living alone in the city had taught her caution. Harrison seemed to sense her hesitation. He took a small step back. "Well, I will let you get back to your evening. It's nice to meet you, Emma. I am sure I will see you around." Nice to meet you too." She closed the door and leaned against it, feeling oddly flustered. New neighbors were always a disruption, but something about Harrison Garrett felt like more than that. She shook her head at herself. He was probably married, probably had a girlfriend, probably was not interested in his paint-covered neighbor who burned toast. But that night, as she was falling asleep, she heard music through the wall. Not loud, just barely audible, classical piano, something melancholy and beautiful. It surprised her. She had expected rock music or television sounds, not Chopin at midnight. The next morning, Emma ran into Harrison in the mailbox area. He was wearing a suit this time, charcoal gray with a crisp white shirt, and he looked every inch the successful businessman. She felt acutely aware of her casual jeans and sweater, her minimal makeup. "Morning," he said, looking up from a stack of mail. "Morning. Settling in okay, getting there. Still have about 50 boxes to unpack." He smiled ruefully. "I am starting to think I own too much stuff." "Where did you move from?" "I was renting a place in Lincoln Park, but the lease was up and I wanted something closer to my office. We are opening a new facility out in Aurora, and this cuts my commute significantly." Emma nodded. "How long have you been running your company?" "About 5 years. Started it right out of business school." He paused, studying her face. "What do you do?" "You mentioned working from home, graphic design. Freelance mostly, but I have a few regular clients now." "That's great. I actually might need to pick your brain sometime." "We are rebranding one of our product lines and the agency we hired is not quite getting it." Before Emma could respond, her phone buzzed. She glanced down to see a text from her mother, the third that morning. She grimaced without meaning to. "Everything okay?" Harrison asked. "Fine. Just family stuff." She tried to smile, but it felt forced. Harrison's expression softened with understanding. "I get it. My mom calls me approximately 12 times a day to make sure I am eating vegetables and not working too hard." Emma laughed despite herself. "Sounds familiar." They walked back upstairs together, and Emma found herself relaxing into the conversation. Harrison was easy to talk to, asking questions that seemed genuinely interested rather than politely perfunctory. By the time they reached the 4th floor, she had learned that he was 29, grew up in Michigan, and had a disturbing addiction to bad action movies. "I am talking truly terrible," he said as they paused between their doors. "The kind where the physics are completely impossible and the dialogue is written by someone who has never heard actual humans speak. Everyone needs a guilty pleasure." "What's yours?" Emma felt her cheeks warm. "Baking competition shows. I watch them obsessively even though I am a terrible baker." "The toast incident this morning," she stared at him. "How did you know about that?" "Thin walls. Also, my smoke detector went off in sympathy." Emma covered her face with her hands. "Oh God, I am so sorry." "Don't be." It was actually a nice alarm clock. Harrison's eyes were dancing with amusement, but not meanly. "Much better than the jackhammer I was expecting from construction noise." After he disappeared into his apartment, Emma stood in her own doorway for a moment, smiling without quite knowing why. She had lived in this building for 6 years without exchanging more than pleasantries with most of her neighbors. Something about Harrison made conversation feel natural, effortless. Over the next 2 weeks, Emma kept running into Harrison. At first, she thought it was coincidence. The mailboxes, the lobby, the coffee shop 2 blocks away that apparently they both frequented. But then she started to notice a pattern. He would appear just as she was leaving for her morning coffee run, or heading back from the small grocery store on the corner, always with that easy smile and a readiness to talk. They developed a routine without meaning to. Coffee on Tuesday and Thursday mornings before Harrison headed to his office. Quick conversations in the hallway about everything and nothing. Once, he knocked on her door at 10 at night to ask if she had a corkscrew, and ended up staying for 2 hours, sitting on her kitchen floor because her apartment only had one chair, talking about their families and their dreams, and the weird pressure of being young and supposedly successful, but still feeling like they were faking it. "Everyone thinks running a company means I have it all figured out," Harrison said, leaning his head back against her cabinet. "But half the time I am just guessing and hoping I do not screw up too badly. That's how I feel about every design I send to a client," Emma admitted. "Like they are going to write back and tell me it is garbage and ask for their money back. Do they ever? No, but I still panic every single time." Harrison looked at her then, really looked at her, and Emma felt something shift in her chest. His eyes were brown, she realized, a warm brown that reminded her of coffee and chocolate and comfort. "I think you are probably better than you give yourself credit for," he said quietly. Emma did not know how to respond to that, so she just smiled and changed the subject to his terrible movie collection. But after he left that night, she lay in bed replaying the conversation, the way he had looked at her, the way her heart had sped up when their hands accidentally touched reaching for the wine bottle. She was developing feelings for Harrison Garrett, and she had no idea what to do about it. The problem was not just that he was her neighbor, though that complicated things. The problem was that Harrison seemed increasingly out of her league with every conversation. He was a CEO, ran a company successful enough that he casually mentioned meeting with investors and expanding production. He wore suits that probably cost more than her rent and talked about business strategies that went completely over her head. Meanwhile, Emma was a freelance designer who still sometimes had to choose between buying groceries and buying new software. She loved her work, loved the freedom and creativity of it, but she was not building an empire. She was just trying to keep her head above water. So when Harrison knocked on her door on a Friday evening and asked if she wanted to grab dinner, Emma almost said no. "Nothing fancy," he added quickly, as if sensing her hesitation. "There is this pizza place down the street that I have been wanting to try, unless you are busy." "I am not busy," Emma heard herself say. The pizza place was small and loud and perfect. They squeezed into a booth in the back, and Harrison ordered a large pepperoni with extra cheese without asking what she wanted, then looked panicked. "Sorry, I should have asked. I just assumed. Do you even like pepperoni?" "I love pepperoni," Emma assured him. "Thank God. My sister always tells me I am terrible at this. At ordering pizza, at dating." The word hung between them for a moment. Harrison's ears turned slightly red. "Not that this is, I mean, unless you want it to be, I just meant." "Harrison." Emma put her hand over his on the table. "Breathe." He laughed, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. "Okay, let me start over. Emma, I like you. I have liked you since that first day when you opened your door with the chain still on and looked at me like I might be a serial killer. I think you are smart and funny and talented, and I really hope this is a date, but if you just want to be friends, I will respect that." Emma's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. "I want this to be a date." Yeah, but I have to be honest about something. I am a little intimidated by you." Harrison's eyebrows shot up. "By me? Why?" "Because you are this successful businessman with your life together, and I am barely keeping my head above water most months. We are just in really different places." "Emma." Harrison turned his hand over so he was holding hers. "I drive a 10-year-old Honda because I cannot justify the expense of something fancier. I had instant ramen for dinner 3 nights this week because I forgot to go grocery shopping. My life is not some polished magazine spread. I work constantly, I stress about money even though I probably should not anymore, and I have not been on a successful date in over a year because I am apparently terrible at connecting with people." He paused. "Except with you. With you, everything feels easy." Emma felt tears prick at her eyes. "With you too." The pizza arrived then, breaking the intensity of the moment. They ate and talked about everything else. Harrison told her about growing up in a small town in Michigan, the youngest of 4 kids, always feeling like he had something to prove. Emma talked about her childhood in Wisconsin, her parents' messy divorce when she was 12, her decision to move to Chicago right after college with no plan and no safety net. "That is brave," Harrison said. "It was stupid. It was both. The best decisions usually are." They stayed until the restaurant was closing, until the servers were stacking chairs and shooting them pointed looks. Walking back to the building, Harrison took her hand, and Emma felt that same electric thrill she had felt in her kitchen weeks ago. At their doors, Harrison paused. "Can I take you out again? Somewhere nicer than a pizza place." "I like the pizza place, me too, but I want to take you somewhere I have to wear a tie." Emma laughed. "Okay, but only if you let me pay half." "Not a chance." "Harrison." "Emma." He stepped closer and she could smell his cologne, something woody and clean. "Let me do this right. Let me take you on proper dates and be stupidly romantic and all that. You can get the next pizza." "Deal." He kissed her then, soft and sweet and perfect. Emma felt it down to her toes, felt the world tilt slightly on its axis. When they pulled apart, Harrison was smiling. "I have wanted to do that for weeks." "What took you so long?" "I was trying to be a gentleman. Trying not to be the creepy new neighbor who immediately hits on the pretty girl next door." "I think you succeeded." That night, Emma lay in bed listening to the piano music through the wall, but this time she knew Harrison was playing. She had seen the keyboard in his living room earlier, half buried under boxes. She texted him at midnight, "You are really good." His response came immediately, "You are really awake. Thin walls, remember. Do you want me to stop?" "No, it is beautiful." She fell asleep to Beethoven, smiling into her pillow. Their second date was at a French restaurant that made Emma grateful she had invested in one good black dress. Harrison showed up at her door in a suit and tie, holding flowers, looking nervous. "You clean up nice," Emma said. "You are stunning." At dinner, Emma learned more about Harrison's company. Garrett Athletics had started as a small operation making custom climbing gear, but had expanded into a full line of outdoor equipment. They manufactured everything from tents to kayaks to hiking boots, all with an emphasis on sustainability and durability. "We use recycled materials whenever possible," Harrison explained. "It costs more upfront, but I think consumers are starting to really care about that stuff. We just signed a major distribution deal with a national retailer. It is going to triple our revenue." "That is amazing. You must be excited." "I am, and terrified. It means hiring more people, expanding our facilities, dealing with logistics I have never handled before." He paused. "But my team is incredible. I could not do any of this without them." Emma noticed how he talked about his employees with genuine respect and appreciation. She had dated guys before who treated service workers badly or talked down to people they considered beneath them. Harrison was different. He asked their server about his night, left a generous tip, held doors for strangers. After dinner, they walked along the lake, even though it was cold and Emma's heels were not made for distance. Harrison gave her his jacket without her asking, and she wrapped it around herself, breathing in his scent. "Tell me something nobody knows about you," Harrison said. Emma thought about it. "I wanted to be a painter, like a real artist. I went to school for fine arts, but I switched to graphic design junior year because it was more practical. I still have all these canvases in my closet that I have never finished." "Why not?" Because I am scared they will be terrible. As long as I do not finish them, I can still imagine they might be good. Harrison stopped walking and turned to face her. That is the saddest thing I have ever heard. What about you? What is your secret? I am terrified of failing every single day. I wake up thinking this is going to be the day everything falls apart, the day everyone realizes I have no idea what I am doing. But you do know what you are doing. Your company is successful. Success is not the same as confidence. I think maybe we are all just pretending until we die. Emma laughed, but it was not entirely a happy sound. That is even sadder than my thing. We are quite a pair. They kissed again on the lake shore with the wind whipping around them and the city lights reflecting off the water. Emma felt something loosening in her chest, some tight knot of fear she had been carrying for years. Harrison made her feel safe in a way she had not felt since before her parents' divorce, since before she learned that stability was always temporary. Over the next 2 months, they fell into a relationship that felt simultaneously brand new and comfortably familiar. Emma kept her apartment, kept her independence, but she spent more and more time at Harrison's place. It was bigger, had better furniture, and his kitchen actually had appliances that worked properly. She met his team when she stopped by his office to drop off lunch one day. The facility was impressive, a sprawling warehouse full of equipment and materials, with a smaller office section where Harrison and his management team worked. Everyone greeted him warmly, and Emma could see the genuine respect in their eyes. "So you are Emma," said a woman named Sarah who apparently handled their marketing. "Harrison talks about you constantly." "Does he? It is kind of annoying, actually. Emma said this. Emma designed that. Emma has this great idea." Sarah was grinning, but we are happy for him. He has been married to this job for 5 years. It is nice to see him have a life. Emma started doing some design work for Garrett Athletics, refusing to let Harrison pay her full rate, but agreeing to be a consultant on the rebrand. She dove into the project with enthusiasm, researching sustainable outdoor companies, studying color theory and typography, filling her sketchbooks with ideas. "This is incredible," Harrison said when she showed him her first round of concepts. They were sitting in his apartment, surrounded by printouts and paint swatches. "Emma, this is exactly what we needed. How did you do this?" "I listened to what you told me about the company, about your values, your goals. The brand should reflect that." Harrison pulled her into his lap, kissing her thoroughly. "You are brilliant. I am adequate. You are brilliant, and I am going to keep saying it until you believe me." Emma was falling in love with him. She knew it, felt it in every conversation, every touch, every moment they spent together. But she did not say it. Some superstitious part of her was afraid that speaking it aloud would break the spell, would make everything fall apart. She met his family when his mother came to visit in early spring. Patricia Garrett was warm and loud and immediately swept Emma into a hug. "Finally, I get to meet the famous Emma. Harrison talks about you in every phone call. I was starting to think you were imaginary." "Mom," Harrison groaned. "What? I am a mother, I worry." "You work too hard. You never date anyone. And then suddenly you are telling me about this wonderful woman who lives next door. Of course, I had to come see for myself." They had dinner at Harrison's apartment, and Emma helped Patricia cook while Harrison claimed he was banned from the kitchen after an incident involving a fire extinguisher and a grilled cheese. "He has always been like this," Patricia said, chopping vegetables with practiced ease. Brilliant with numbers and business, completely hopeless with anything domestic. His father was the same way, could build a company from nothing but could not cook an egg to save his life. "Was?" Emma asked gently. "He passed 5 years ago. Heart attack." Harrison was just finishing business school. Patricia's hand stilled on the cutting board. I think that is why he works so hard, trying to prove something to a man who is not here to see it. Emma's chest tightened. Harrison had mentioned his father, but always briefly, always moving past it quickly. She understood that impulse, the instinct to push down grief rather than examine it. That night, after Patricia had gone back to her hotel, Emma and Harrison lay tangled together on his couch. "Your mom is wonderful," Emma said. "She likes you. I could tell. She does this thing where she touches your arm if she likes you, and she was touching your arm constantly. You never really talk about your dad." Harrison was quiet for a long moment. "He died right before I started the company. He always pushed me to take risks, to build something of my own. I think he would be proud of what Garrett Athletics has become. I hope he would be. I think he would be too. Sometimes I wonder if I am doing all this for me or for him, if I am chasing my dream or his ghost." Emma propped herself up to look at him. "Maybe it is both. Maybe that is okay." Harrison pulled her down for a kiss that started soft and turned urgent. They made love on his couch, slow and tender, and Emma whispered against his skin all the things she could not yet say aloud. Spring turned to summer. Emma's design work for Garrett Athletics expanded. The rebrand was a huge success, with several industry publications praising the fresh aesthetic. Harrison insisted on paying her properly, and Emma's bank account reached a level of security she had never experienced before. "I feel weird about this," she said, staring at the check he had given her. "Why? You did the work, you should be paid for it. But you are my boyfriend. Which is completely separate from the fact that you are a talented designer who saved our rebrand. Emma, you earned this. Please do not diminish your work just because of our relationship." She deposited the check, but it took her a week to feel okay about it. They took a trip to Michigan to visit Harrison's hometown. Emma met his siblings, his childhood friends, and saw the small house where he grew up. It was strange seeing him in that context, the successful CEO transformed back into someone's little brother, someone's old friend. "You were really a nerd," Emma said, looking at his high school yearbook photo. "I prefer the term intellectually focused. You were in the math club and the chess club and the debate team. Like I said, intellectually focused." His older brother Mark clapped Harrison on the shoulder. He was also the worst at sports, could not catch a ball to save his life, and now he runs a sports equipment company. The irony. "I understand sports," Harrison protested. "I just do not participate in them." They spent 3 days there, and Emma felt herself being folded into the Garrett family with an ease that both thrilled and terrified her. They were loud and affectionate and constantly in each other's business, so different from her own small, fractured family. Her mother lived in Arizona now with her new husband. Her father was somewhere on the East Coast with his third wife. Emma had not spent a holiday with family in years. On the drive back to Chicago, Harrison reached over and took her hand. "Thank you for coming with me. Thank you for bringing me. My mom cornered me this morning and asked when I was going to propose." Emma's heart stopped. "What did you say?" "I told her to mind her own business. And that I was working on it." He glanced at her, his expression nervous. "Too soon. I did not mean to freak you out. I am not freaked out." Emma was surprised to realize it was true. "I think I would say yes if you asked, eventually. Good to know." They drove in comfortable silence for a while, the radio playing softly. "I love you," Emma said suddenly. "I should have said it before, but I was scared. I love you, Harrison." He pulled the car over onto the shoulder, putting it in park and turning to face her. "Say it again." "I love you." "I love you too. I have loved you since you opened that door with the chain on, looking all suspicious and adorable. I love you so much it scares me sometimes." They kissed on the side of the highway while cars rushed past, and Emma felt completely certain for the first time in her life. The rest of the summer was golden. Emma's business continued to grow, partially through referrals from Harrison's network, but increasingly from her own reputation. She hired an assistant, a recent design school grad named Maya who reminded Emma of herself a few years ago. Hungry, talented, terrified of failing. "You are really good at this," Maya said after Emma had given her feedback on a logo design. "At design, at teaching. My professors were all about big concepts and theory, but you actually explain how to do the work." Emma felt a warm glow of pride. She had never thought of herself as a teacher, but she found she enjoyed it. Enjoyed sharing what she had learned, helping someone else navigate the terrifying waters of freelancing. Harrison's company continued to expand. The deal with the national retailer had opened doors to international markets. He was traveling more, to trade shows and investor meetings and facility tours. Emma missed him when he was gone, but also enjoyed the time alone, the chance to remember she was a whole person independent of their relationship. In August, Harrison's apartment flooded due to a burst pipe. It was a disaster, with water ruining his hardwood floors and most of his furniture. He stood in the hallway looking shell-shocked while the building maintenance crew assessed the damage. "You can stay with me," Emma said. "Your place is tiny. It fits one person fine. It will fit two people cozy." He moved in with 2 suitcases and a desperate gratitude. Emma's apartment, which had always felt small but sufficient, became cramped immediately. They were constantly in each other's way, bumping elbows in the kitchen, fighting for space in the bathroom. Harrison's work papers spread across every surface. Emma's design supplies took over the bedroom. They should have been miserable. Instead, Emma had never been happier. "I kind of love this," she admitted one night. They were squeezed together on her couch, watching one of Harrison's terrible action movies. "Love what?" "The complete lack of personal space. Love you being here. Love falling asleep next to you every night. Love waking up and having coffee together every morning." Harrison kissed her forehead. "The repairs are going to take at least 6 weeks. Good. I could also just stay. After, I mean, if you wanted. Or you could move into my place once it is fixed. Or we could find somewhere new together." Emma sat up to look at him properly. "Are you asking me to move in with you, officially?" "Yes, I know it is fast, but Emma, I cannot imagine going back to living separately. I do not want to. Me neither." They decided on his apartment once the repairs were finished. It was bigger, had better light for Emma's design work, and the kitchen appliances actually functioned. But Emma kept her lease for another month, just in case, that old fear of instability raising its head. "I am not going anywhere," Harrison said when she told him. "I know. I just need a backup plan. It is how I am wired." "I understand. But Emma, I need you to hear this. I am in this for the long term. I want a life with you. Marriage, kids if you want them, the whole thing. You do not have to decide now, but I need you to know that is where my head is." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "That is where my head is too." Moving in together was an adjustment. They had to negotiate closet space and bathroom routines and whose furniture to keep. Harrison was neater than Emma had expected, but he had a terrible habit of leaving empty water glasses on every surface. Emma discovered she was possessive about kitchen organization and had strong opinions about proper towel folding. But they figured it out slowly through compromise and communication, and occasionally just laughing at how ridiculous they were being. "We are fighting about spoons," Harrison said one evening, shaking his head. "They go in the drawer handle down," Emma insisted. "That makes no sense." "Then you grab the dirty part. You grab the handle part. The part you eat with should be protected. We are insane. Totally insane." They kept the spoon's handle down. Work continued to be good for both of them. Emma landed a major contract with a national coffee chain, redesigning their entire visual identity. It was the biggest project of her career, and she threw herself into it with an intensity that sometimes worried Harrison. "You need to take breaks," he said, finding her at her desk at 2 in the morning. "I am on a roll. You are going to burn out," says the man who works 70-hour weeks. "Which is exactly why I know what I am talking about." Harrison pulled her chair away from the desk. "Come to bed. The work will be there tomorrow." Emma let him lead her to the bedroom. Too tired to argue, she fell asleep in his arms, grateful for someone who understood the drive to work, but also knew when to pull her back from the edge. In October, Harrison's company was featured in a major business magazine. The article called him a young visionary, praised his commitment to sustainability, and projected massive growth over the next 5 years. Emma read it with pride and a small flicker of insecurity. "You are kind of a big deal," she said. "The company is doing well. That does not make me a big deal." "Harrison, they called you a visionary." He set the magazine aside and pulled her into his lap. "I could not have done any of this without you. The rebrand, the confidence to take bigger risks, the ability to actually have a life outside of work. You made all that possible. I just designed a logo. You did so much more than that. Emma, you make me better. At business, at life, at everything." She kissed him then, pouring all her love and gratitude and lingering insecurity into it. Harrison responded with matching intensity, and they ended up making love on the living room floor, desperate and tender and perfect. Afterwards, lying tangled together, Harrison said, "Marry me." Emma's heart stopped. "What, marry me?" "I know I do not have a ring, and this is probably the least romantic proposal in history, but I cannot wait anymore. I want you to be my wife. I want to build a life with you, officially, legally, permanently. So marry me, Emma Zaleski, please." "Yes." The word came out as a sob. "Yes, of course, yes." They lay there crying and laughing and kissing, and Emma felt a joy so complete it was almost painful. She had been alone for so long, had convinced herself she was fine with it, that she did not need anyone. And then Harrison had moved in next door and changed everything. The next day, Harrison took her to a jeweler. Emma protested that they could wait, that he did not need to spend a fortune, but Harrison was adamant. "I am buying you a ring, a proper ring. End of discussion." They looked at dozens of options. Emma felt overwhelmed by the sparkling cases, the attentive salespeople, the sheer magnitude of the decision. Finally, she found one that felt right. A simple platinum band with a single diamond, elegant and understated. "You are sure?" Harrison asked. "We can look at bigger stones." "I am sure." "It is perfect." He bought it on the spot, sliding it onto her finger with a reverence that made her throat tight. Emma stared at her hand, at the physical symbol of their commitment, and felt tears spill over. "Happy tears," she assured him. They told their families that evening. Emma called her mother first, bracing herself for some kind of criticism or concern, but her mother surprised her. "Oh, honey, I am so happy for you. He sounds wonderful. When do I get to meet him?" "Soon. We will figure something out." Harrison's family was predictably loud and enthusiastic. His mother cried. His siblings all offered unsolicited advice about wedding planning. By the end of the calls, Emma's ears were ringing, but she was smiling. "Welcome to the family," Harrison said. "They are going to drive you crazy, but they mean well. I like them. I like having a big family. I never had that growing up." They decided on a small wedding, just close family and friends in the spring. Emma did not want a big production, did not want to spend months planning and stressing. She just wanted to marry Harrison and start their life together officially. But even a small wedding required planning. There were venues to book and invitations to design and a dress to find. Emma threw herself into it, enjoying the creative challenge but also feeling the pressure of it all. "We could just elope," Harrison suggested one evening when she was particularly stressed about seating arrangements. "No, I want our families there. I just wish it was less complicated." "Everything worth doing is complicated." The wedding happened on a perfect May morning. Emma wore a simple white dress with her hair in loose curls. Harrison looked devastatingly handsome in his suit, his eyes bright with emotion. They exchanged vows in a small garden, surrounded by flowers and the people they loved most. "I promise to always burn the toast," Emma said, and everyone laughed. "I promise to always listen to your terrible music through the wall," Harrison responded. They kissed as husband and wife, and Emma felt a completeness she had never experienced before. This was it. This was her person, her home, her forever. The reception was at a small restaurant, intimate and warm. Emma's mother managed to stay civil with her father, who had flown in from Boston with his wife. Harrison's family was loud and joyful, filling the space with laughter and stories. Emma's friends from design school cornered her at one point. "You look so happy," her college roommate said. "I am. I really, really am." For their honeymoon, they went to Italy. 2 weeks of art and food and wandering through ancient cities without any agenda. Emma filled a sketchbook with drawings and ideas, feeling creatively inspired in a way she had not felt in years. Harrison relaxed in a way she had never seen, the constant tension leaving his shoulders. "We should do this more," he said in Rome, as they shared gelato and watched street performers. "Run away to Italy. Take time for us, for life. I get so caught up in work that I forget to actually live." "Me too." When they returned to Chicago, they both made an effort to maintain that balance. Emma turned down projects that did not excite her. Harrison delegated more at work, trusting his team to handle things without his constant oversight. They had dinner together most nights, took weekends to explore the city or just stay in bed. Emma started painting again. She set up an easel in the corner of their living room and worked on canvases in the early mornings when the light was best. The work was rusty at first, awkward and frustrating. But slowly, she found her rhythm again, remembered why she had loved it in the first place. "These are beautiful," Harrison said, studying a landscape she had been working on. "They are okay. They are beautiful, and you need to stop dismissing your own talent." Emma kissed him, grateful for his constant encouragement, his refusal to let her diminish herself. A year into their marriage, they started talking about children. It was a tentative conversation at first, both of them testing the waters, but they discovered they wanted the same things. A family, chaos and noise and love filling their home. "I want 2 kids," Emma said. "Maybe 3. I want whatever you want, as long as they get your artistic talent and not my complete lack of coordination." They started trying, and Emma felt a nervous excitement every month. When it did not happen immediately, she tried not to panic. These things took time. But after 6 months of negative tests, she felt the fear creeping in. "What if something is wrong?" she asked Harrison one night. "Then we will deal with it, together." "But Emma, it has only been 6 months. That is completely normal. I know. I just want this so badly." "Me too." 2 months later, Emma woke up feeling nauseous. She took a test, hands shaking, and watched as 2 pink lines appeared. She stood in the bathroom for a long moment, staring at the result, barely breathing. "Harrison," she called. He appeared in the doorway, still half asleep. "What is wrong?" She held up the test wordlessly. It took him a moment to process what he was seeing, and then his face broke into a smile so wide it looked like it might split his face. "We are having a baby. We are having a baby." He picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing and crying at the same time. Emma felt a joy so profound it was almost terrifying. This was happening. They were going to be parents. The pregnancy was difficult. Emma had terrible morning sickness that lasted all day. exhaustion that made working nearly impossible, and anxiety that kept her up at night. Harrison was endlessly patient, rubbing her back during bouts of nausea, taking over all the household chores, researching every possible pregnancy symptom to reassure her that what she was experiencing was normal. "You are going to be such a good dad," Emma said one evening. They were lying in bed, Harrison's hand on her still flat stomach. "I hope so. I am terrified." "Me too, but we will figure it out together." They found out they were having a girl at the 20-week ultrasound. Emma cried watching the screen, seeing their daughter's tiny heartbeat, her little hands and feet. Harrison was silent, gripping Emma's hand so tightly it hurt, his eyes fixed on the monitor. "She is perfect," he whispered. They spent the next few months preparing. Painting the nursery, buying tiny clothes and furniture, reading books about parenting that made them both feel hopelessly unprepared. Harrison's mother came to visit and took over, organizing everything with military efficiency. "You need a system," she insisted. "Babies are chaos. Systems help." Emma let her take charge, too tired and overwhelmed to argue. She was in the 3rd trimester now, huge and uncomfortable and counting down the days. Her work had slowed to almost nothing. Maya was handling most of their clients, with Emma providing feedback and direction when she had the energy. "Do not worry about it," Maya said when Emma apologized for the 100th time. "You are growing a human. That is more important than logo designs." Emma went into labor on a Tuesday evening. Her water broke while they were eating dinner, and Harrison went into what she would later describe as controlled panic mode. He grabbed the hospital bag they had packed weeks ago, helped her to the car, and drove to the hospital with exaggerated care, like she might break if he went over a pothole. "I am not going to shatter," Emma said through a contraction. "I know. I just want to keep you safe." Labor was long and difficult, 22 hours of pain and exhaustion and fear. Harrison stayed with her the entire time, letting her squeeze his hand until she thought she might break his fingers, whispering encouragement even when she cursed at him. And then finally, after what felt like an eternity, their daughter was born. The doctor placed her on Emma's chest, and Emma looked down at this tiny, perfect person and felt her heart expand in a way she had not known was possible. "Hi, baby," she whispered. "We have been waiting for you." Harrison was crying openly, his hand on their daughter's back. "She is beautiful. Emma, she is so beautiful." They named her Hope Patricia Garrett, after Harrison's mother and the feeling that had carried them through the pregnancy. Hope had dark hair like Harrison and Emma's eyes, and from the moment she was born, she owned them completely. The first few months were a blur of sleepless nights and endless feedings, and a love so intense it was almost painful. Emma had never been so exhausted or so happy. Harrison took paternity leave, and they navigated parenthood together, learning on the fly, making mistakes and figuring it out as they went. "I have no idea what I am doing," Harrison said one night at 3 in the morning, holding a crying Hope. "Me neither. But she is alive and relatively happy, so I think we are doing okay." They were doing more than okay. They were building a life, a family, a future together. Emma would sometimes think back to that morning 6 years ago when she had burned her toast, completely unaware that the man who would change everything was signing a lease next door. It felt like a different lifetime, like she had been a different person. She was sitting in the nursery one evening, feeding Hope while Harrison dozed in the chair beside them when she felt it fully. This deep, abiding contentment. She had spent so many years afraid of instability, of loss, of the other shoe dropping. But here, in this moment, she felt only peace. "I love you," she whispered to Hope. "I love you so much." Hope blinked up at her with those serious eyes, and Emma smiled. This was her family, her home, Her forever, Harrison stirred in his chair, opening his eyes and smiling at them. "How are my girls? Perfect. We are perfect." And they were. They really, truly were. Emma Zaleski Garrett, who had lived in the Ashford building for years, who had burned her toast and kept to herself and built a careful, controlled life, had opened her door to a new neighbor and found everything she had not known she was looking for. Love, family, home. Not next door, but right here, in the space they had created together. And it was more than she had ever dreamed possible.